Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Fatima, Coach Fatima.
And welcome to our live where we're going to discuss self-awareness. However, we're going to give you guys some time to get in, get settled, share, because sharing is caring. So, yes, I don't know if you said it, but we're co-wives, co-founders of outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. For those who are new to the group, new to our channel, new to OPR, Outstanding Personal Relationships. Anyway, so yeah, this month our focus is on self-awareness. We do a theme each month. This theme is self-awareness. We're going to talk about the importance of self-awareness, how can it affect, yourself, your relationships, your life, your overall well-being. So yes, make sure you comment. Make sure you're on YouTube, you're subscribing. If you haven't already, click that bell so you can get notifications and all that other good stuff.
Let us know where y'all from.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes, let us know where you guys are calling. I always say calling, like, the crazy thing is, well, I keep saying calling, but I did find out that there's actually a feature on YouTube. I don't know how that works, but that you can actually call in to, we don't know how that works yet, but I just found that out because a person who I follow actually just decided to start doing that on some of her videos. So yeah, it was actually pretty cool. So yeah, still playing around. Always some new stuff that's going on with the social media and all that other good stuff. So it'll be good because we'll be able to connect with you guys a whole lot more in different ways. We like doing that. So yeah, make sure you are sharing. Let us know where you are watching us from, and if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments. But when you do put them in the comments, make sure you put a question mark by it so we know that it's a question and not just a comment.
So like a piece, Coach Nazir. All right, I'm gonna straighten that out over there. All right, cool. Let's jump into it. Got 15 minutes.
Okay.
Jump into it.
All right. Self-awareness.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had to learn how to do that. I had to actually learn how to be self-aware. And, we'll go into it, but because I thought I was. So I found out you're not. You just say stuff. These savage moments of like just saying stuff, and I'm like, I need to reel that back in and redo that because I was being aware of my behavior, because I wasn't.
It's a funny thing. I was just thinking about those who, I want to say those who are not living under a rock, but those who, have access to social media, have access to the stuff that's going on, and I think even CNN talking about it. This whole thing, I'm gonna bring it out there. This whole thing with Will and Jada, because I've been seeing it all over social media, like Will and Jada though, but Will and Jada though. I'm gonna tell you something about the one thing that stuck out to me about self-awareness with the Will and Jada though, was that you can kind of see the difference between being self-aware and being self-absorbed, or what other people call self-centered, or certain things like that. And sometimes it's easier seeing it through the eyes, looking at other people and seeing what they would do. But then sometimes we have to reflect, be self-aware and reflect, like, do I do that? Am I using people for my benefit? Am I using people that because I'll make an excuse thinking that I'm doing it for the greater good, or I was helping out somebody else, but then I use their weakness, so to speak, to help myself, to make myself feel better. It's those type of things where, I see certain things and it's great conversation, but it's also a great reflection piece. Sometimes if I see certain things, that's one of my self-awareness techniques for the most part. One of the many where if I see something that bothers me in someone else, I reflect and say, hey, do I do those things too? Have I done those things? And if I have, for one, you got to be careful because then you sound like a hypocrite. And I've done that, before, where I'll see a person wearing a certain thing and some woman that's, not dressed as, modest, and know how to be as covered as I am, but dressed as modest. And I would have a particular judgment in my mind about that person. I'm human. We all have our things. And one day, her husband actually brought to my attention, like, hey, you know, you weren't always at the place where you are right now. Before you start judging people, think about, where you came from, type of thing. Not that I was just out there really bad, but I wasn't where I was, and I wasn't out there all good either, for the most part. So to just think about it, I'm like, you know what? That always stuck with me. So whenever I think about what somebody else is doing that I don't like, or that I'm not happy with, or is not with my standards, I start to reflect and say, you know what, have I done that? Have I been that way? Have I changed? And because I changed don't mean that I'm that much, that I'm that far removed where I can judge you, because I don't know your journey, so to speak. So, that part of looking at yourself first before you start placing judgment or these different things on other people and other situations.
Indeed. All right. A few things. First of all, respond to some salams from my peoples, from brothers and sisters. Sakina out DC, wa alaikum salam, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now here's the deal. Assalamu alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That kind of applies for this whole live.
Yeah.
Because, we appreciate all the salam. We're saying it silently. You just said it perfectly. All right, Sammy Marasha, Zaina, sisters in the house, alhamdulillah. Again, if you have any questions, put question marks, then post the questions. We'll be here maybe another 17 minutes, inshallah. Now, self-awareness for me, Coach Nyla talked about asking yourself some questions like, did I do that, or see where it came from, and being able to relate. One of the things that I had to come to is just asking yourself some basic questions. So, for example, you can look at where you are right now in life, all right? And it's difficult for us to disassociate with ourselves because we're usually always with ourselves, for the most part, right? So the questions will be, do I know more now, or do I have more experience now, or do I think differently now, today, than I've thought in the past? Have I changed my thinking on some ideas or some challenges that I've had in the past? If I look at myself, my 20-year-old self, what would I tell myself? Would I give them advice? Which means either I've grown or progressed, or I've, learned something along the way to have some type of wisdom. If that's the case, and understanding we're in a gradual state of progress, then we also have to understand that we must be self-aware. And it starts first with your conscious questioning of you. We had to do that. We had to do that when it came to religion. Obviously, one of the most obvious things, we're all Muslims. Now, we weren't always Muslims. So when I hear a lot of people, Christians in particular, well, religion is not in the Bible, and it doesn't say this, and you're going to hell, and all this old crazy, judgy, stuff from religion I used to belong. They act like we just don't know, or I have relatives that forgot that, yeah, we went to Christian school. I was raised in Christian school all the way through high school and all kinds of stuff, and would kill them in debates before finding Islam. I didn't choose Islam because I was looking for something else. I was trying to disprove it and was seeking, but nevertheless, meaning that I had to question my core beliefs. Many times we have perceptions of marriage and what it looks like when we're children. I told myself, I'm not going to get married till I'm like old. All right, when I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to play, had these cars and have all this kind of stuff. And a kid like 6, 7, 8 years old, those are my kind. But of course, it matured along the way. And then I ended up getting married as a kid. Some people may look at it as 19 being pretty young, a teenager. Pretty young, but it's on a stage of maturity. So looking at our own growth, we have to humble ourselves because we're not as good as we think we are. And I forget the term. Maybe to come to me. I know it's in my notes. But whatever. We usually think we're better than we are. So like we may watch a movie and be like, oh, I'd have kicked him in the back of the head and done this. And knowing that in something in real life, one, you likely wouldn't have done that. You might pull a hamstring or have a problem in an emergency situation. But we think in our minds we're better than we are because we have a great imagination, even if we don't exercise it as much as we should. But it goes back to the first conscious questioning of things. Who am I? What do you consider with your identity? What direction are you going toward? Admitting one, that we're faulty, that we're so many flaws. It has to be a word after flaws. Like, we have issues. We're humans. It is what it is, right? But we also have guidance. I mean, again, Islam, we follow Islam. So as Muslims, we have a guidance. We have the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet, Islam. So with that being said, self-awareness is key, because if you don't address that, then that's called, and you enter into a relationship, you're married, or you have relationships with your children and different whatever, then you carrying along this other baggage that you think is straight. But when you open this baggage up, it's a whole bunch of garbage, old stuff, things that need to get left behind, things that are no longer, apply to today. You might be carrying a whole suitcase full of 8-tracks. Not really viable today in today's world, if you will. But I don't know where it came. It's just old technology. But many times we're playing old things, old records, or old things over and over and over, because we haven't questioned their validity and how we formed it, and if it's valid right now. So we start there consciously, no matter what it may be. So, monopolize this conversation. I know Coach Fatimah, bring it.
You know what? We talked about, and I've talked about several times, I'll continue to say it, you got to give yourself permission to do a lot of things as an adult. We don't have it all together. So I had to give myself permission to check myself and check how I'm acting or showing up. How's my energy? Because I tell people, I don't always act right. I do not. And I have to go, okay. And I'll go into it more for my seat members. But I had to give myself the permission to say, you're not acting right. You could be better than this today. You need to redo that, come back and change your attitude or change your thought on something. Years ago, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, and we've been friends maybe 20 years exactly, about polygyny. I wasn't in polygyny, she's not in polygyny, but we debated, and it was starting to get a little emotional and heated, and I said, you know what, this I'm standing on Islam with this. I don't know where you're coming from with it, but this is what Islam says. And she told me, when we all entered polygyny, she was like, you know what, you changed my mind, Fatimah, because you stood on it, and I was upset because there was something I wasn't getting in my marriage. So I couldn't see my husband having another wife if I'm not getting what I'm getting from you. And I'm glad I did that, even though, I had my own personal feelings about things, but they didn't matter. I'm like, I have to check myself in order to get this situation together so that this person can maybe see something else. And I didn't know I had that effect on her till years later. And she said, you changed my mind. And it really wasn't me. It was Islam, or what I was saying about Islam, that changed her mind. But had I stayed stuck in my own desire or what I didn't want in my life at the time, I couldn't have had that conversation or that friendly debate with her if I hadn't checked my energy and said, you know what, regardless of how you feel personally deep down with your insecurities or whatever the case may be, you have to present Islam this way, and you have to talk to your friend about this if you love her. Check your attitude and then talk to her about hers. But that was not easy to do at that time, because it's something that I had feared for years, but I had to do that. So give yourself permission to check yourself, check and talk to, not necessarily check the people you love at all, but talk to them about certain things. Part of self-awareness is knowing if you're not okay, say you're not okay. And if somebody loves you and you could talk to them and you feel better about a thing, do that. That's what I have to say on that.
The next part, no, I appreciate that. I mean, it's real, because again, it starts with self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, then you lack in discipline. I mean, there are a whole bunch of other negatives that are cross from this that many of us see. There's a lack of consistency, lack of really holding your word up high. There's a spontaneity with your behaviors, or erratic behavior, as has been described. So there are a lot of things that go along with that, and that's the type of thing you bring in your relationship. So you're married, now all of a sudden you're not self-aware. Someone else wants to make you self-aware, or wants to help you become self-aware. And if we don't know how to do that, if you don't know the personality type of the individual, like, listen, why do you always do this and blah, 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 blah. What's wrong with you? That's probably not the best way to go at it. But we do that as humans, as though we forget that we don't want to be talked to like that, or, you know, handled like that, if you will, right? So we may, again, disassociating is very, very important. If you can take mentally and do an exercise, just an exercise in looking at your behavior, or you're looking down, let's say you closing your eyes and you're looking down on yourself for a certain situation, like you're watching a movie or you see it on TV. Because we're disassociated from the television or a drama series, and you be watching something like, man, sometimes I do that. That's just ridiculous. Now I can see what she may see if I said something or did something. Or I'm like, she do this all the time. I hope she really getting this right here, right? Because that's a part of disassociation. So if we have the ability, again, this is dealing with maturity. This is dealing with growth, or what's called, again, adulting, right? That changes the level of fulfillment you can receive in a relationship, because now you can receive information better. So now if someone's upset about something or perturbed and you have no idea why, you may be able to question yourself, okay, I'm flawed. I already know I do such and such. Let me check and run down this checklist and see, maybe I could have went left, or maybe, okay, maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's her perception, or it's an idea or belief she holds on something, or what have you, or I hold on something and we don't see the same thing as maybe disrespect. So asking yourself these questions means, one, that you value your relationship. All right. Many times when we talk about lack of communication, it really goes to the lack of valuing the relationship. Because if you're not willing to learn how to communicate, or what your communication methods are, your personality type, or maybe a love language, if you're not invested in that, if you're not sincere and actually going and investing in your own growth in that, how serious would you be? Now, let me ask you, before you even answer that, I want you to compare it to something else. Let's say someone wants to get their MBA or PhD, but they're not studying, right? Let's say they want to become a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, and they want to get this degree, but they're not going through the different things to pass the exam. What would you think about that? They're probably not serious, right? There's an end goal. They want to have this. Now, marriage is fulfillment. They want to have, but they're not studying this over here. They're not they're not investing in themselves. They're not doing and going through the proper steps. You would not consider them serious. Somebody wants to get to the NBA. I want to be a basketball player. I want to do that. Okay, cool. Are you out there shooting 1,000 free throws a day? Are you working on your defense? Are you able to take feedback from different coaches? Are you out there running? Oh, you want to be a boxer? How many miles are you jogging per day? Because the work is seen in the individual who wants this actual goal versus just saying it. All right? That right there is extremely important. I mean, we're going to be talking about that and going deeper in our RMIC that we're going to start in about 20 minutes. But that's so important, because if you value your marriage, you value the relationship that you have with your husband or your wife or your wives, then that means you're going to be doing some work intentionally, aligning together to get it done. Once you recognize that you want to have fulfillment and happiness in a better marriage. Once you recognize that, maybe if you don't recognize that and y'all just, hey, just floating along, and how's that really on a lazy river? Most time it doesn't work, as we can see, just the statistics alone, that most marriages are going to fail anyway. But the ones that make it want to make it. They do work to make it. So anyway, that's that part of it. Anybody else want to add so far as when it comes to how that self-awareness or lack thereof affects relationships, marriages?
Kind of cover the stuff on it.
Yeah, you
So, yeah.
you covered that part.
Any questions, anybody?
What's that?
I don't know.
All right, cool. About to wrap it in. Covered it. All of a sudden, now I'm covering it well. Any questions, though? All right, go ahead, Umi Reed. Go ahead and just post the question. You put a question mark. If you have a question, again, put some question marks and post the questions here. Now, we're not streaming live from our page. This is actually our private group. We find that instead of just having a bunch of people on the page and checking stuff out, which is fine, it's a lot better or a lot simpler to go ahead in our group, in our area, where people are more vested in their relationships, even though the number is smaller. Again, we're not doing this for the likes. We're doing this, one, for the barakah and the blessings in it, and to be an example, especially in polygyny. So, and that's talking to the Facebook group. You know, YouTube, we have a private Facebook group. We go live throughout the week and stuff like that. Matter of fact, we're planning doing some rooms, kind of like a Zoom inside Facebook group. So if you're not there or not on Facebook for some reason, you might want to go ahead and check that out. and there's a question, I think Sakina was a question, said, it is difficult for all parties who don't want to do the work, right? It is difficult if all parties don't want to do the work. How does that work? It doesn't. It usually doesn't. Many times it can get to a point of what's called POD, a point of disgust or a point of decision, where all of a sudden now this time, we do this little diagram that we've done for our members, but over time, if you look at a timeline, and you can go, and if you're working on things, and you go up and so on, but if you're not, it goes down. And over time, there's resentment, there's disrespect, there are things that, at the beginning of the relationship, it's like, oh, let me grab the door for you, and oh, it's nice outside, oh, take my coat, baby, you cold, go ahead and take my coat. And then like 5 years in, you're like, would you hurry up? You waiting at the car, like, get our own door. It's cold outside, I told you to get your jacket. Over time, it doesn't work. So by that not working, you're either gonna hit a point of disgust where it's like, look, I'm tired of this is garbage. You're not even trying. I wanna have better. It has to work from both ends. The person really has to desire it or want it. So one, you gotta do the work. If you want to do the work and the other person not willing to do the work, you're either going to have to make the choices of suffering and dealing with resentment and going through that and choosing that, or deciding that it's not for you. I mean, it's real life. We're adults. We have to make those hard decisions. So, we don't think, divorce is a goal, but it is an option. And Islam puts it as an option. It's not the first option. There are other things to go through and grow through, but also we have to make sure we're not the actual problem. Hence self-awareness. Because how you have no idea how many brothers I come across and they're like, yo, yeah, I got divorced. I did it. You know what? I just didn't know, or I was doing this. They finally admitted after the fact, but had they listened to their wife at the time, she was on point usually. And it's like, yo, this and that, blah, so I need this, so I need to know, blah, this is what you're doing, woo, woo. But at the time, the ego gets up, and the male ego is a big, huge monster, which is an actual fragile paper tiger, very, very fragile, and don't listen. So again, that's an option and stuff there. And Jemima says she got some questions. Interesting. A brother says, I have a brother who wants to marry me, and he has 2 wives already. I live in the U.S., and he does not. Say again?
It's not like you said a brother said.
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah. Well, ED, it looked like Ed from here, but ED on YouTube says, I have a brother who wants to marry me, and he has 2 wives already. I live in the U.S., and he does not. AI. Okay. Inshallah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala. Grant you tawfiq, make a good decision. On Jemima says, have some questions. Just tuned in. I have a complicated situation. She's new to this. Is it possible to communicate privately? You can join the Facebook group that we have. All right, that's a private Facebook group. We, pretty much screen everybody after answer all the questions to get in. That's at facebook.com/groups/Let's Talk Polygyny. Okay, or you can email us support@outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. It may take us a little longer because the inbox is full. And many times what we do, we can take the question and answer it anonymously in our private Facebook group area. We find that is much simpler to do than to do that. So, but support@outstandingpersonalrelationships.com, or just join a group or hit us on Facebook, inbox us or whatnot. Or, that'll help, inshallah. Again, we have about 3 minutes left. So, sister says about the brother wants to marry, I'm not doing okay, but do not like him asking me for money to build a home there. I told him, as a man, husband, that's your responsibility, something like that. Okay, so he lives out the country, he's asking you for money, and he wants to marry you, he wants you to pay for building a home there. That sounds definitely like a complicated situation. You might need to reevaluate what your values are, what's important, what the benefits of that may be, and what are the challenges, and if you're willing to deal with that. So you don't want to feel used. That's a good, these things are rules. There are certain signs. Okay, we feel a certain way, we think a certain way, and we evaluating. Many times that's our intuition letting us know something's not right here. So we got to dig a little bit further and find out what's going on with that. So you don't need us to tell you whether or not you're being used. We don't know the situation exactly. But if you feel you don't want to be used, and this might be a used situation, and you're not married, that's a red flag. That means you need to look into it more, and make sure you're utilizing the brothers, whether it's your wakil or your wali and everybody else in that type of situation. Okay, because yeah, exactly, they're there to be your guardian and to help you along that process and get over the emotional part of wanting to be married and get into actually protecting your rights. Prayerfully, that helped. We got about 2 minutes now. Do the sisters prioritize their relationship also with each other? I mean,
Is it do we, or is it should?
do we? Umi says that from our group. She says, do the sisters prioritize their relationships with each other?
We make time for each other. We spend time together, so it's a priority for us. But we do have to work around each other's schedules an awful lot, so.
Yeah, and definitely, we do prioritize because, hey, I love my co-wife, I will, despite, other relationships that we trying to help
Supposed to hate
with.
you, remember that?
Now, just to be clear though, because yes, they're co-wives and everything else, and we're talking, and we're sharing a teacher right now. You do have to understand something, comparing and comparisons. And they say comparison is the thief of all joy. So don't compare your chapter 1 to our chapter 10.
Yeah.
Okay? Because getting through there, like any good book, like any good movie, there's ups and downs, there's drama, there's trauma, there's tears, there's all kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm just letting you know, just like you might see your favorite UFC champion or boxer or martial artist or whatever female sport I'm missing right now, gymnast Simone Biles, the greatest of all time so far as athlete, period. You might see that displayed in front of the whole world and with the cameras and the lights and all of that stuff, but you don't see all the sweat, all the falls, all the fails, all the trying over again in the gym and all the training. So just know that. So, because we're looking at it and sometimes people say, oh, I want to have a relationship like that. Yeah, but are you willing to go through what they had to grow through in order to really get to this point? You know what I'm saying? We can help and teach that, and you don't have to either, but just don't compare that, because comparison, again, is the thief of joy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I was gonna talk about prioritizing, that's the thing, just like Coach Nazir said, and, you don't want to compare, but if it's something about that you guys want to build and you want to have these certain relationships, then prioritizing that time, prioritizing, like Coach Fatimah said, the schedules and those type of things is, it's very, it's very important. And my thing is, when I'm having a bad day or when I need something, or even when I don't need something, but she's there. So, and we prioritize in a way, and we're self-aware that we're not using each other, that, we're not manipulating each other's time, energy, or anything like that. And we're giving as much as we're getting from
It's
each
all
other.
from a loving place,
Last question. Lady says she's involved with an already married man, and his wife's okay with it, as long as it's a polyamorous type relationship and she's involved with her sexually. She says she's not into it, but she ain't gay. So, polygyny, just to really explain the polys real quick, there's what's called polygamy. Polygamy means multiple spouses. So, meaning husband having multiple spouses, wife having multiple spouses. So that's the general umbrella term. Then there is polygyny, meaning a man having multiple wives. That's what we practice. All right. And there is polyandry, which means a woman having multiple husbands, or something like an entanglement. But even though they weren't there. So then there's polyamory, and polyamory means people that just have multiple lovers or multiple relationships. Okay. So with that being said, we don't practice polyamory, practice polygyny, meaning that I'm basically monogamously married to each of these women. They don't have a sexual relationship with each other, anything like that. That's not polygyny. Okay. So now when it comes to something like that, my advice on there is, one, there are a couple different things. There's a lot of different things going on. First, already involved with a married man and whatever his wife is on and stuff like that. You have to go into find out what your core values are. And also, again, you don't need us to let us know. You don't need us to let you know what the red flags are. All right, emotional manipulation, sexual manipulation, all of these things, we know what's truth, what's right, what's wrong. So even if it's a wrong, let's say you're involved with a married man, he's already married, he's not married to you, you're sexually involved with him. We know that morally speaking, again, we're pro-morals, we're not anti-monogamy, we just pro-morals. So that's not correct. All right, that's wrong. That's a sin in Islam. All right, it's a sin in any scripture, religion, anything like that. So again, prioritizing what your values are and being self-aware, because going down one hole of sin will definitely lead to many other parts of sin. Depending on, again, what your moral foundation or what your moral basis is and how you really view the world. So obviously, that's not something you're into and doesn't sound like something you want to be into. you're grown. I'm assuming you're grown, you're an adult, then you have to make a decision for yourself. All right. And sex trafficking, and then this is not necessarily the same thing, but sexual deviation is at such an all-time high just because of one of the amount of people that's on the earth. What's being culturally promoted all over the place right now, that it's around every corner. It doesn't matter your religion, your belief, your background. What matters is your action on that belief and being moral and upright. So prayerfully, you already know what to do. I'm pretty sure you know what to do and what not to do, and to get yourself straight into a place where you're valuing yourself, you know what your values are, you're self-aware, and you attract the type of situation you want to attract. All right, so I'll leave it at that as we got to wrap, because that's a serious question, and prayerfully, you take action on that. No matter what your emotions may say, you know that emotions are fickle. Okay, so if your emotions are fickle, then do what's right, do what's best for you spiritually first as your foundation, and build from there. Even if you don't necessarily like it, or your body yearns or wants something different, control that, become self-aware, self-disciplined, and have a higher level of fulfillment with yourself, by yourself. That can help healing and being whole, and that will be a blessing for someone else you enter a marriage with. Prayerfully. Any closing comments before we start our training? You don't normally end on such a heavy question like that. That was pretty deep. But again, prayerfully, you got some good stuff there. And again, we do jump in live from time to time, just throughout the week, on Facebook, in our Facebook group. So that's facebook.com/groups/Let's Talk Polygyny. Hope to see you there. And if you're not an RMIC member, that's a relationship mastery inner circle. We're about to start our live training for our members only, where that worksheets, we go deeper, direct access and everything to us, even a bonus coaching session as well. We're about to start that shortly. If you want to join that and get info, outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship mastery. And related to close us out with some GLC.
All right, so make sure you're always practicing GLC. Make sure you are growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. Inshallah, we'll see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.
We'll go to our live, where we're going to discuss self-awareness. However, we're going to give you guys some time to